Last time I made a video essay that was kind of sad in a way, but this time we're going to talk about something much more positive. That's right, I'm going to talk about my queer headcanons and the queer subtext overall in the DCLA shows. And once again, there are more than 3 DCLA shows technically, but I will only mention 3 of them in this video, because those 3 were the only ones that came out internationally. I did address a bit of queer subtext in my BIA analysis video. That video was both in Swedish, although I have English subtitles to it if you want to check it out, and also, it was just a smaller section because that video was more or less a review and analysis of BIA. But in this video, we're going to go all in. I will say that I will talk so much more about Violetta and Luna because I don't have as much to say about BIA. But I will say that I will address BIA too. However, with my BIA clips, well, you will notice that when I use clips of Violetta and Luna, there are not much like watermarks or stuff because I can record those scenes myself. But with BIA, I can't record my scenes myself because it's not out in my country. So the clips I will use will have Swedish subtitles because they are old recordings I had back when I had a VPN and could watch it. And so the BIA clips will be the ones that I used for my BIA analysis video. And I hope that you can accept that. I just want to say, if you are a person who would say, what do you mean about queer subtext? Everyone is straight in the DCLA shows. Ha! No, they are not. Jesus Christ, they are not. And I would like, in the order of the shows coming out, talk about the queer subtext in each of them, and my personal headcanons, and my personal queer ships that I have. Let's start off with Violetta. This show is right off the bat a bit queer coded, and just like I will mention with other show, it's not always clear if they intended to or if it just became like that, because in many cases the creators didn't really intend for it to be like that, but people can see it anyway. But nonetheless, it's very fun. I will now give a little list with my queer headcanons for a majority of the characters. First of all, the main character, Violetta herself, she is very much bisexual. She has been sheltered all her life, and when she finally meets other people her age, well, she discovers both boys and girls, I would say. Francesca, she is also very much bisexual. I've seen around some people headcanoning her as a lesbian, but personally I only could see that in like one out of context scene, and like without that scene she's more or less bisexual. Camila, I go a little back and forth because sometimes I say she's bisexual, other times she's more pansexual. And I think that she more or less is just queer. That's like her. She doesn't really have a like definitive label. She's just queer. Maxi is bisexual too. Also, he's trans. I don't know where I got the trans headcanon. Honestly, it was just like some of us in the fandom like collectively saw Maxi and like, you're trans. Leon is bisexual, Diego is very much bisexual. Andres, he is either bisexual or maybe actually gay. Maybe that's the reason why he can't get any girlfriend, because like he can't really settle down with them. He more likes the idea of having a girlfriend than like actually having one, and it's because he's actually gay. Maybe. I'm a little unsure about Marco because like sometimes I saw him as like the token straight. I think Broadway is the token straight of the group, because Marco, sometimes I felt like he only liked Francesca and no one else. But honestly, like, ever since I saw the scene where the guys misunderstood him and thought that he was into Diego.
Cuando nos encontramos en Madrid, sentía que me amaba. No puedo estar tan equivocado.
¿Qué? ¿Que cuando te encontraste con Diego en Madrid sentiste que te amaba?
Estoy hablando de Francesca, Andrés.
I have been like, maybe. And also, the first 20 episodes of season 3 are so much funnier if you pretend that Marco and Diego are going through a divorce. I am not sure about either Pablo or Gregorio, but like, when I see them, I get the feeling that they are like secretly sleeping together, because like, what the heck is going on between them? Angie is definitely bisexual. Sometimes I randomly like to go with the lesbian aunt thing with her, but like, I think that she's bisexual, and I think mainly I think that because I very much ship her and Pablo, even though the show really like spits in our faces that they will not be endgame, and I was like, fuck you, no, they can still be endgame in my heart. But Angie definitely has some things for women too, especially Jackie. I will discuss Angie and Jackie later when I come to the ships, and I'm not really sure about Jackie either. Now, for all the gay characters, I mentioned Andres, maybe he's gay, maybe he's bi, I'm not sure, but like, the characters I fully know are gay. First of all, Napo. Obviously, Napo is so gay that they erased him from existence. He was fooling absolutely no one. We got the local lesbians Ludmila and Naty. I can see arguments to why they would be bisexual, but I see them and they are so much lesbians to me. There is so much with Ludmila specifically that I can discuss later, because like, oh boy. I have not a single clue what Federico is. I stare at him and I am like, what are you? We will never know. Also, I forgot to mention Braco. I am not sure if Braco is gay or bi or whatever, because like, it's very common to ship him and Napo together, by the reason being that they hang out a lot together. Also, Braco is obsessed with bears. So, if I have forgotten someone, then I will maybe mention them later, because now I will come to the ships. I will discuss some smaller queer ships and what I think about them, and then we will get to like my biggest queer ships. So I would say that the most common ship in Violetta is between Diego and Leon. I think it's because people find them hot. But it is also their giant tension. There is something going on between Leon and Diego from the second they meet each other. They are also very easy to get into. They have some scenes where, for example, there's a scene where Diego says that something happens when we sing together, which is like, okay. And there is a scene where Leon rips apart a paper and Diego stands there like... Like, they have a lot of sexual tension. You can't deny it. I would just roll the clip because I have used this joke so many times. The vibe is so fantastic. I've already discussed Marco and Diego, but another big ship that was much bigger beforehand in the old fandom days was Ludmila and Violetta. That, as you can imagine, was popular before season 3 came out, but I would argue that it was still pretty big, and the big reason I think many people caught onto it was because of the Si Es Por Amor performance. I will discuss that song more when I come to the queer songs of Violetta, because they have some queer songs too, but like, I get it, because that is one of the most homoerotic performances in the whole show. However, I personally never really shipped Violetta and Ludmila. I have a different kind of take of the symbolism in Cis por Amor, and I will get to that when I come to the song part. People like to ship Andres with both Leon and with Maxi. I can see both, actually. Personally, I'm leaning more into him and Maxi, because one time they accidentally went on a date together. But I like him and Leon too. I think that he may have had a little crush on Leon. Braco and Napo, of course. There's not much to say there other than yes. So, with Violetta, there is one girl in particular I like to ship her with. But there is another girl that I sort of saw vibes with her with, and that was Lara. Violetta and Lara had a pretty strange relationship, because like the show wanted us to portray it as they were rivals, but they sort of weren't. In actuality, they kind of respected each other. And like the only thing that they could argue about really was like both liking Leon. But besides that, they kind of got along, honestly. And like, when Violetta saw Lara sing for the first time, I swear to God, she got some sort of awakening. And she was so awkward and nervous when she came up to her and was like, oh my God, you were so good. Like, I had that scene in my Violetta being a bi disaster video that I did like a year ago. By the way, I should make more of those types of videos, because I have made one for Francesca, one for Violetta, one for Naty too, but I haven't really done that for much other characters, but there are a lot of other characters that deserve it. I just haven't done that for some reason. Anyway, I could really see there being something with her and Lara. Something that Lara does also is like randomly come to the studio and like kind of walking away and taking courage before she goes up to talk to Violetta. And at one point in like late season 3, she just came to the studio and like she walked into a classroom and Violetta was like, oh, you're looking for Leon, he's not here. And she was like, I know he's not here. And then she was like about to leave. And then Violetta like apologized for her for a thing. But like the thing was, why was he at the studio if she wasn't going to meet Leon? Did she want to talk to Violetta and then like left? Or what? Similarly, there is one girl in particular that I like to ship Francesca with. But I have to say, something went on with her and Anna. Anna was a character I forgot to mention in my non-consensual video because she also kisses someone without their consent, but in her case, Marco sort of like forgives her right away, so like it sort of wasn't a big deal, but it was still not okay, of course. Anyway, she wants to have Marco for herself, so she tries to like get Francesca away from him. But the thing is, it kind of feels like she tries to flirt with Francesca sometimes. Like, in one scene in particular where Francesca plays guitar and Anna just comes up out of nowhere and starts to sing with her. And like, Francesca starts like to pull her hair and like seemingly be a bit nervous and like a bit awkward and be like, haha, I don't know how I feel. And then like, I don't know, I saw some vibes between them, honestly, but it's time for me to talk about the one queer ship, my ultimate favorite queer ship in Violetta and probably all in DCLA too, because I have mentioned previously that when you are a DCLA fan, you have to be obsessed with at least 2 queer ships. You can be obsessed with many of them, but 2 of them should be like your main obsessions. And one of them for me is Francesca and Violetta. So, it was a journey for me. As a kid, I saw them as nothing but friends, and like they are supposed to just be friends, so that was like the correct way to see them. But when I rewatched the show as I got older, I just noticed these small moments. I first remember rewatching the scene when they first become friends, and like Violetta says like, "Oh, you're so pretty," and she's like, "Oh yeah, thank you. Everything is good between us, right?" And then like Violetta like writes Amiga in her diary and like looks at her. Then Francesca comes home to her for the first time some days later, and it's all exciting, and Francesca just randomly creates a handshake with her. The other big scene for me was episode 6 in season 2, where they sit at Violetta's bed and Francesca just like goes up to her face super close. I have been obsessed with this scene since I discovered it. Like, I never really thought about it as a kid, but like seeing it now as when I'm older, I'm like, oh my god. And the scene that hit the nail for me was the cheek kiss in episode 25 of season 2.
Bueno, te veo después. Chao.
When I saw that, I just like had to pause for a moment and just like process and be like, yep, I'm shipping them out. Their cheek kisses in particular is something that is out of the ordinary. Because like friends cheek kiss each other, and that's not weird, but like for some reason when these two do it, I feel like they make a bigger scene out of it. Also, their man one time complained that Leon had kissed Violetta on the cheek, and I'm like, you should see how much Francesca does this, because when she does it, like Violetta, like what is the scene of Violetta like turning around and looking at her like longingly? There's also a thing in season 2 where Francesca always wants to go home to Violetta's house like alone. In particular, there was a scene where Violetta wanted to write a song about the first kiss, and she needed some inspiration, and Francesca said, yeah, we can go home to your house, you and I, and we can come up with something together. And like, I was like, hold up. Also, the Swedish dub once made a scene with Francesca and Violetta so much gayer, because in Spanish she says that
Es tan linda, ¿verdad?
but like in Swedish she instead says,
Du är så vacker. Ja.
I also ship Violetta with Leon, and like for most of the time that's kind of nice to multi-ship, because like sometimes Leon and Violetta can be a little awkward, you know. So whenever they have troubles, I can always rely on Francesca and Violetta. There has also been times where I have been in doubt and be like, oh, do I really ship them, or are they only friends? Have I just fooled myself all this time? And then I see one scene and I'm just back at it again. Francesca also cared so much more about Violetta than she did with Diego when she hid that she dated Diego. And much of that was just overthinking and like just procrastinating how she should do it. She just thought too much about it instead of just doing it. But at some points it felt like she just cared so much more about Violetta than she did about Diego. Also, the Roxy and Fausta plot is very cringe a lot of the times, but I just have to say, Roxy and Fausta, if they were their own set of characters, they would be like gayer versions of Francesca and Violetta. Also, Francesca wrote a love song to Violetta. I know Junto a Ti is a song about friendship, but it's specifically about her friendship with Violetta. Not to mention, Violetta was the reason that she got to stay in Buenos Aires. Like, I know that was a group effort. All her friends helped her father to realize that she could stay in Buenos Aires, but like, he specifically said that he didn't want Francesca to leave Violetta. I'm taking what I can get, okay? And a final thing before we move on. The scene where Ludmila finds them in the aquarium. She must have thought that they were hooking up in there, because like she opens the door and they awkwardly put on their clothes. She must have thought something was going on. I am just so obsessed with them. I can't leave, however, without talking about the biggest set of ships and the real love triangle in season 3. We are talking about Ludmila, Camila and Naty. Those three together as a ship, like a poly ship, that's quite common, but it's sort of also common with all their three like 2 and 2 ships. Ludmila and Naty, I would say, is the biggest, and it's not hard to see why. The second you see it, you can't unsee it. Like, there are times when I see Francesca and Violetta and I go, okay, in this scene they are just friends. But like with Ludmila and Naty, you can never tell. At some points I'm starting to wonder if it's just fan theories or if there's actually something going on, because Jesus Christ. In season 3 especially, they have so many moments. Like at that point I'm wondering if Naty like dated both Ludmila and Camila like simultaneously. And we can talk about Naty and Camila too, because they are the girlfriends in season 3. Not to mention, Camila wanted to practice the kiss scene with Naty. I wish more people talked about this, because I have seen people like live blogging the show, and when they come to this episode, they don't even mention the fact that Camila wanted to practice the kiss scene with Naty, and they presumably kissed off screen. Then there is also Camila and Ludmila. Already in the pilot, they had some chemistry. Ladies, what are you doing? They are similar to Diego and Leon in the sense that you don't know if they are gonna kiss or if they're gonna fight. They feel like they had like been making out backstage and then pretend like nothing happened. Ludmila also really likes to touch her hair for some reason. Ludmila's whole lesbianism could be a long analysis video in itself, because it's very popular in the fandom to treat Priscilla as homophobic, because she gives off a very homophobic vibe. And if we add that whenever Naty is around, Priscilla immediately is like, why do you hang out with that girl? You shouldn't be with that girl. You shouldn't be influenced by that girl. And like in canon, it's just like she's a bad friend. But like, if you just see Ludmila and Naty interact, well, my theory is with these three is that Naty and Ludmila sort of hooked up a bit sometimes in like season 1 and season 2, but like similarly to Britannia and Glee, Ludmila was like, no, this means nothing, we're just having fun, actually I like boys. And then in season 3, Naty started to date Camila, and Ludmila felt a little jealous, and then like Naty felt like, oh my god, but I still like Ludmila too. And then she sort of started dating both of them. This was okay for everyone involved. And then eventually Camila and Ludmila also started dating each other, because they were like, okay, we're both dating Naty. Should we try like hooking up with each other too? And then they did. But honestly, Naty, she's like the top girlfriend, I feel like. She's probably also top in bed anyway. I finally just want to mention Angie and Jackie, because I don't know what is going on between them, but something is going on. I have a theory that they are bitter exes and they pretend that like they don't know each other because they don't want to face each other. But if they are not bitter exes, then I have a theory that Angie is really into her, but she doesn't know how to express it. There are some scenes where Angie like bites her lip or like looks at Jackie in a certain way or like laughs awkwardly, and then like Jackie becomes uncomfortable. There was one scene in particular where like Angie she talked like this when she talked to Jackie. And Jackie sort of was a bit weirded out. And then when they had the group therapy, Angie like apologized to Jackie if she ever made her uncomfortable, because she was like, yeah, our relationship is a bit weird. I am very intrigued by Angie and Jackie. I can't explain it, but I am so intrigued by them. Of course, there are a lot of other queer ships in Violetta. People can ship anything. There's a kind of popular thing now to ship Jade and Angie. I did not mention them as much because personally I'm not as into them, but like I'm fine with them. They're cool, but like for me I'm just not seeing it as much. And there are a lot of other ships out there, but these were like the ones that I personally thought about and was interested in, and so on. Now here's a rundown of some queer songs, or queer coded songs in Violetta. For starters, we have Si es por amor. This is mostly for the performance more than the lyrics of the song. My personal interpretation of the performance is that it's about Ludmila running from her feelings for girls. It's not Violetta in particular she's attracted to. Violetta rather represents her fear. Violetta, as you could describe it in this scenario, because Ludmila is the one that imagines this scenario. Violetta is sort of the part of her that wants to come out and like maybe out herself against her will, while Ludmila herself like tries to run away from that. She tries to run away from her gayness, but she's afraid that it's shown basically everywhere she goes. And like it's so big that it's bigger than the whole city in the end. We then have Entre dos mundos, which for started, the title alone, Between Two Worlds. Obviously. It's a big bi anthem, and like technically the song is about Leon's struggles with motocross and music, and like his two passions in one, but like it's a bi anthem. And so is Como Quieres. Como Quieres is Violetta's coming out song, I swear to God. When she performs it, there's bisexual lightning in the background, which like further encapsulates it. Peligrosamente Bellas, I would also say, is pretty queer coded, because like Ludmila and Naty, they sing about how hot they are, and like during the rehearsals, like they got a bit too frisky with each other, like they touched each other so much that Andy like pointed it out. Junto a ti, even though it's technically a friendship song, but shut up. Yo soy así, that Diego sings, is also a bi anthem, because the song is basically, this is who I am, deal with it. On beat, by the reason being that many kids got a bi awakening or gay awakening from this. There's nothing in the song that like is so queer coded, but the performance, Jesus Christ. This is the propaganda that turns our kids gay, okay? Underneath it all, because without the context, it sounds like someone hiding who they really are, if you know how I mean. And also Código Amistad is here because I love Código Amistad, and I say so. Well, with that long part over, it is time to talk about Soy Luna. This show also rages a queer energy, and we will begin immediately without further introduction to my queer headcanons of the characters. Luna, first of all, pansexual all around. She literally dresses in the pansexual flag, and I have the feeling that like she is just so open-minded. She's accepting of anything. I remember the scene where Sofia Carson kissed her on the cheek, and like she looked like she short-circuited. Like I think that was her sexual awakening. But I have also seen the theory that she is asexual. And I get this too, because Luna is not as interested in romance as she is in friendships. So what I am thinking is that she is asexual but pan-romantic. We got some bisexuals, we have Simon, we have Gaston, and we have Matteo. I sighed because I wish I could call Matteo like a annoying straight dude, but like, I have to admit, he is not straight, he is one of us. I mentioned in my last video that Matteo is sort of like not good with women at all, but like with other men, he is really good. I don't know how he can do it, but he has chemistry with every man ever. I am a bit unsure about Ramiro because sometimes I say he's bi, sometimes I say he's gay. So I'm not sure where I stand with that really right now, but maybe. And Ámbar is very much bisexual too. And she's bisexual in a kind of weird way. Because her interactions with people are just very odd in general, so yeah. Anna and Mora are of course lesbians, like they are married basically. And Jim and Jam, they rage a lesbian energy. I honestly don't know how anyone can see the show and not see them as lesbians. I'm kidding, a bit of course, but also not. Like, was I the only one who, when I saw this episode of season 2, when they came out with the most lesbian outfits ever and I just freaked out, was I the only one that just freaked out over their lesbian outfits? I have a lot to say about Jim and Jam, so stay tuned. Also, Emilia, I think she's sapphic in some way at least. Now, Nina is the one I am very indecisive about, actually. For like 3 episodes in season 1, for some reason I thought she was a lesbian, because I liked the idea of like a closeted lesbian with like overprotective parents, but then I got to know her and I was like, okay, no, she likes boys. And for kind of a long while I thought she was asexual, but the reason I thought that was honestly because I had that vibe for an episode and then someone replied with like, why do you think that? And I was like, okay, if you're going to have that reaction, then I will have that headcanon out of spite. Like, I had that headcanon like longer before I myself really believed in it, so... And then after that I was like, is she straight or is she bisexual? Many people see her as the token straight, and like, I get that, and I kinda do for the majority of the time, but there's like some specific episodes in like season 1, season 2 and season 3 where I like low-key ship her and Luna. We are now moving on to the queer ships, and I guess we can just mention Luna and Nina directly, because like in the beginning of season 3 I noticed some vibes between Luna and Nina. Nina had a tendency to say stuff that really sounded queer out of context. If you've seen my Luna characters being queer video, you can see that I included some clips with Nina just saying random stuff, because like she just said some stuff like, she says like boys weren't a part of the dictionary. One time she was very serious when she mentioned that friends can fall in love with each other. Also, one time Ámbar asked Luna if she was going on a date with someone, and she was like, yeah, with Nina. But there weren't a lot in season 1, like for the most part I just saw them as friends, and I noticed like that Nina was way more into boys like than Luna was at all. In season 2, for the most part, I also saw them as friends, except for like an episode where Luna's mom randomly thought that they were secretly dating. Also, like, I have a fun theory that Monica and Miguel, they never know who Luna is dating because she never tells them. So like, Miguel has a theory that she dates Simon because she actually did date him for a while, and she never told them that they broke up, and also she never told them that they dated, but they understood that anyway. And I have a theory that he thought that she dated Simon up until he learned that she dates Matteo, while Monica starts to wonder if she dates Nina, because she's like, she must date someone of her friends. And there is a scene where Monica is like, can you explain to me why you were so mysterious in the bedroom? And then also says, if something important happens to you, I'd like to know. Like implying that she's wondering if they are dating. And then I ship them for the final episode in season 3, where Luna like gives her a random love confession. But besides that, I mostly see them as friends. No, there was one character that I really shipped Luna with, and that was Ámbar. I was just so obsessed with them in season 1. Like, Ámbar was obsessed with Luna to like a scary degree. She watched her sleep. She talked about her a bit too much. She had this conversation with her.
Qué bueno que nos entendamos también. Parece que el hecho de compartir cuarto en la competencia hizo que nos conozcamos más profundamente, ¿no?
What is that supposed to mean? And then I learned that Ámbar was adopted by Sharon, which means that she and Luna are cousins. So like, I had a whole mental crisis over like the fact that I wasn't sure what to do now, because like, I can't ship cousins, or I mean I can, but like it would feel weird. But I love how their relationship turned out, and I really like their platonic cousin relationship too. But I don't know, in season 1 especially, there was something going on between them. But Ámbar and Emilia, they absolutely had a thing going on. I am sure that between season 1 and season 2, they probably like hooked up and then like they had a casual relationship. I mean, there must be a reason that Emilia likes to stay over the night so much. There was also a scene where Emilia put on Ámbar's old clothes and she was like, don't they look pretty? I even look like a good girl. And like Ámbar sort of became a bit turned on by it. Ámbar is like horny on main in season 3 in general, so like, yeah. I also think that Emilia pretended to be in love with Matteo to make Ámbar jealous in some way, or to like show her that she had a crush when she didn't, because she noticed that Ámbar really liked Timon, and she probably was a bit more in love with Ámbar than Ámbar was with her. I think that Ámbar sort of like saw it as a way to get her steam off. Like, she wasn't fully in love with Emilia, but Emilia was fully in love with her. So they crashed a bit there, but like, I definitely shipped them. Now, Matteo, as I mentioned, seems to have chemistry with every man ever. Him and Simon have some chemistry, for example, and honestly, I feel like people just want to project Diego and Leon on them, but honestly, I don't feel it as strongly. But that's just how I feel. Him and Gaston also had like a bond, and apparently people had like ship wars over if Matteo should be with Simon or Gaston, which sounds kind of funny actually. But then we have Matteo and Ramiro, and I don't know where to begin. They have always sort of been friends, but they really became closer in season 2, where the two of them went to the same skating group. And in season 3, it just like hit. Especially the scene where Ramiro gives the video to Matteo and he's like, "You're not like the other 8 sharks." And Matteo's like, "No one can see us together." Like, it feels like enemies to lovers plot. And when Ramiro visits him in the hospital and just go, "Hello, Balsano." I don't know why, but I'm obsessed. We cannot forget about Anna and Mora, because these two women moved in together. Anna made a big deal about moving in with Mora, and she kind of was afraid to tell Nina that, as if there was something more than just moving in. Like with those two, I feel like the creators wanted to do something that they weren't allowed to do. But like, they are the lesbian moms. And now we have come to the one ship. That is the second one of the two biggest queer ships that I am obsessed with. Jim and Jam. Now, when I started to watch Luna, I had learned two things beforehand. One was that Ámbar was slaying, and the other one was that this was the show of the ships. They lied to me. Not about Ámbar. Ámbar was slaying, but about the ships. I did not care about a single ship besides Luna and Simon and Ámbar out of the canon ships. I didn't dislike a lot of the other ships, but I really was not invested in them. Like, why do you call this the ships show? But something I noticed very early on when starting to watch Sir Luna. Jim and Jam are girlfriends, right? Why did no one tell me about them? Honestly, in the future I want to make a long video with just the history of their love story. Because I am convinced these two actually dated in season 3. I see it like this. Both of them started the show as sort of not 100% being sure of the sexuality. Jam, I think, realized that she was a lesbian pretty early on, but because it seemed like no one else was, she sort of convinced herself that maybe I like boys if I just give them a chance, and that's why she started to date Ramiro. But when she dated Ramiro, she was on the edge of breaking up with him at any point. Jim, on the other hand, was in a combat field. She literally had no idea, but she also thought that you could choose who you had a crush on. And this is the girl who broke up with Nico because she didn't feel jealous when he talked to another girl, because she had convinced herself that girlfriends should be jealous when their partner are talking to another girl. By season 2, I think that Jim has started to realize that she's a lesbian, especially after she broke up with Nico and like does a little self-discovery. Jam, on the other hand, she had a self-discovery, and then she started to have doubts, and so she went back to date Ramiro again, but this time it didn't really work out either. And then in season 3, the second Jam broke up with Ramiro, I am sure that at some point during the episodes afterwards, she and Jim started dating. And I will make a long video where I explain their entire history and how and when I think they started dating and when I think they realized their feelings for each other, because I think Jam already realized she had a crush on Jim in season 1 and Jim a bit later, but nonetheless they found each other. But like, there is so many moments these two have. I mean, Jam serenading Jim with a fucking love song. And then in season 2, I would argue that when she sings Yes I Do, she still thinks about Jim. Or at least does not think about anyone in particular, because I don't think she actually thinks about Ramiro, regardless how the show wants you to think. Also, in the final episode of the show, some people have argued that Jam and Ramiro get back together, but honestly, I need more proof than just staring and smiling at each other. I don't think they got back together. Jim and Jam were dating. Give this video a comment if you want to see a video where I discuss the history and like love story of Jim and Jam, because I can analyze it from season 1 to season 3. It can be a long and happy video about those two. There are also some smaller ships I can bring up. There's a trend nowadays that people like to ship Jasmine and Emilia, and I think that's very cute actually. Also some people that ship Delphi with Emma, you know, that girl that she met for some episodes, maybe. I know some people also like the ship of Jim and Luna, and I think it's because they have a similar vibe, but I get it, but I don't think I am as into it. This is a bit weird, but like, I have sort of considered Ámbar and Jam, but I am not sure if I more like them as a friendship, because they barely interact in canon. I think it more has to do with the fact that they are my two favorite characters in Soy Luna. So I was like, okay, what if I match up my two favorite characters? I have explored their dynamic a bit in fanfics I have written, and I don't really know if I could see it as romantic, but I at least like to see how they would interact if they interacted, if you can understand what I mean, because their interactions in the show are very little, so I make up a bunch in my imagination. Right, I also forgot about Juliana. Their coach Juliana, I feel like she's also sapphic, and I feel like that's another proof that Jam is a lesbian, because both Juliana and Mora are like acting as like lesbian mentors for her a bit. Like they take a fond of her, especially. So, is there any queer songs in Soy Luna? Well, yeah, I mean, Arodar mi vida, even if it's not technically a part of this show's universe because it's an actual song that they sing a cover to, they made it sapphic when Jam made a serenading version of it. I think Ámbar's solo songs in particular is all kind of queer-coded. Como me ves, for example, is about the singer's reflection, asking them, how do you see me? And I think it can be interpreted as someone coming out to themselves, and their reflection is like their mind that like tries to accept themselves, asking themselves, how do you see me? Do you accept me for who I am? Then we have Claroscuro, that's a very edgy song. And I think it can be about someone who had a bad coming out. They weren't as perfect as people thought them to be, but they are proud of themselves anyway, so they kind of are like, yeah, I'm bad, I'm dark, I'm ruthless, that's who I am, deal with it. And Catch Me If You Can is kind of interesting because it can be interpreted in a lot of ways. The other songs can too, obviously, but Catch Me If You Can, you can kind of see it as someone who was in the darkness and got saved by another person who was like their parachute. And I mean, it's a love song, so like technically it could be about anyone. So the person that saved them might be their lover that helped them accept themselves for who they are. Also, we have Valiente. I feel like it's a power anthem. You know, you're brave, you will grow. I feel like it's a perfect song to sing in Pride Month, to give people some confidence and some boost. And now we have come to Bia. And I have a lot less to say about this show. That is partly because there was just way less people that I felt a queer vibe to at all. That isn't to say that there isn't any, because there are a few, but not as much as I noticed in the other shows. The theme song, As You Soy, is very queer-coded actually. It's a very, this is how I am. They talk about like colors and acceptance, and like it's a very happy song. And I can see how it's definitely like a queer-coded song. With my headcanons, I would say like Helena maybe is like pansexual. Bit unsure about Kiara, I would talk about her later, but one character definitely that I think is lesbian is Celeste. Now, I started season 1 and I thought, God, everyone is so straight in the show. And I got the response, but what about Celeste? And I was like, what do you mean? Then it turned out that Celeste was going to therapy. And what was really weird about it was that when she was about to say it, she said it like, I have something really, really important to tell you guys. Like, it was kind of like a coming out vibe, and then she just said, I'm going to therapy. And I was like, oh, okay. And then one time in a scene at her therapist, she says that there is something I haven't even told my friends. And here I was like, okay, is this what everyone is talking about? Is this where she like gives a hint that she might be gay? Because I wasn't expecting her to come out really, because I know these shows, but like I thought maybe there's like a hint that you can interpret. But she says that she's in love with a boy. And I was like, alright. And then she kisses said boy, and after that, she never talks about him ever again. Because then in season 2, she is suddenly very enthusiastic and passionate about a female podcaster that she has heard. And she changes her entire views and her entire style because of this podcaster. And I immediately made an entire turn and was like, oh, okay, I get it now. Yeah, she's a lesbian. I think that her crush on that boy was like very compet, because like after she kissed him, she was sort of like, oh, okay, no, I'm a lesbian, bye. And I think she learned a lot about herself in therapy. Not to mention that when she meets this girl, she just reacts like this, which is like, okay, I see it. But besides that, I don't see a lot more. I mean, I can kind of see Mora and Carmine too, because they seem to have something going on. I think Mora can be a lesbian too, but honestly, that's really it. I've seen some people ship Kiara and Celeste, and I can see that too, but like personally for a long time I saw Kiara as straight, but I don't know. As I said with Bia, I don't have as much to say. There definitely is a lot of queer element there too, it's just that I don't see it as much as I do with the other shows. Maybe when I eventually rewatch Bia, then I will notice some things, but we will not know until I do that. As you could notice, there is a lot to talk about, and honestly, with a lot of these ships and a lot of these headcanons, I only touched the surface, so I could be able to like mention everything. Some of these ships and headcanons I have talked plenty about. I mean, I made a lot of videos about Francesca and Violetta, and also a bit of Naty and Ludmila. I have made queer moments compilations in both Violetta and Luna. And again, I think that Jim and Jam deserve a video where I just explain their love story from start to finish. Because I thought of making a video like I did with Francesca and Violetta, like being like them being best gal pals for X minutes, but honestly, with Jim and Jam, there is so much that I think they need a whole like analysis. Because the difference between them and Violetta and Francesca is that with Violetta and Francesca, I can also see them as friends. Like, I ship them so hard and I love them so much, but they don't have to date for me to ship them. I perfectly love their canon relationship too. But Jim and Jam, I don't see them as just best friends. I can't see them as just best friends. They are dating. I think I will bring up a lot more in future videos. I didn't even like mention some crack ships. Like, sometimes I think about how it would be if Priscilla and Sharon got married. Not because I think they would work as a couple, I think they would, but also because of like the dynamics that would happen. Like, imagine Ludmila being stepsisters with Ámbar. Oh my gosh. and them like trauma dumping in the living room, and then like Luna comes in and is like, what is going on? There's a lot of headcanons and a lot of ships that you can headcanon about. Do you have any queer headcanons? Or maybe ships? Tell me in the comics section, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.